Welcome everyone to today's workshop. Today I have, I think for the fourth time now, Billy Stevens, and I just want to say that anyone that's interested in our private coaching group, I'm going to put a link in the chat for anyone that wants further information. I'm not going to discuss it any further, but today Billy from Sera Software and Billygo. I want everyone to welcome Billy. Today's workshop is going to be, we're going to discuss zero service fees, which is going to be the main topic because there's a fair bit of attention in this area, as well as margin pricing. So welcome, Billy. Thanks again for joining us on this special workshop.
Thanks for having me, Alan.
My pleasure, buddy.
22.
I love your podcast setup there, man.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're trying to look professional around here. I don't know if I'm pulling it off yet.
You're doing fantastic. So yeah, the hot subject at the moment is zero dispatch fees, and I'm entering into a fair bit of debate on this area, and I know you've got an amazing perspective here. And the other one is margin pricing, and I'm a massive believer in margin pricing, and hopefully we can cover that off and any questions that come at us. So welcome, man.
All right. Well, let's get started. We'll start with the zero dispatch fees, and I'll go into why I feel like they are a blocker for customers to do business with you, when all this time we've been told that it was a blocker from people that don't want to spend money. And I disagree with that completely. And not only do I disagree, I have not charged a dispatch fee for 5 years now. And we have some of the best customers you can ever have. And the reason why I don't charge them is I try to make it super easy for a customer to pick us. We're spending a lot of money, guys. Over $100 in most cases to get a customer. And I feel like if we put up roadblocks to keep them from picking us, then we're wasting that $100. Nothing worse than getting a click and then losing a call because of a dispatch fee or whatever. And if dispatch fees were such a big part of your business, then why don't we waive them to get certain service calls? And so here's the way I look at it. When a customer is looking for a service and they don't know who to choose, you have to give them a reason to pick you. The way you give them a reason to pick you is you make it as simple and as easy as possible to pick you. When everyone else is saying $79 dispatch fee, or not even mentioning that they've charged a dispatch fee, but you're saying no dispatch fees on your ads, in your Google ads, in your marketing campaigns, no dispatch fees, you are completely standing out from the rest of the people in your service area. That is ultimately what we want here. Now, the way that we combat that money that we potentially lose, which in my opinion, we don't lose, because a dispatch fee doesn't determine whether or not someone can pay. I just don't believe that. And, there's cases where there's folks that call and they're trying to get a deal. I get it. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen. But for the most part, people want convenience. They want easy access to service, just like getting a car, just like getting food now. You got to make it easy for them. This is just how people are used to doing business now. They want to make it super simple, and they don't want any barriers. And so for 4.5 years, call it 5 years now, we have been charging zero dispatch fees, but we also know how to charge for every minute of everyone's time. So that's where you make the money. And what I mean by that is, if a guy works 8 hours for you, he needs to charge for 8 hours of his time. And if I'm charging for 8 hours of his time by the minute, and I know my per minute cost to run the business, I'm getting all the money back that he's bringing in at a ratio that I've set up, like a margin that we're going to get into a minute. And by doing it this way, we're getting way more than a dispatch fee. Let's just say, for whatever reason, your labor price is $200 an hour. I'm just using a round number. $200 an hour is what we're actually getting while you're driving to the job. We're not getting a $59 dispatch fee or $79 dispatch fee and no job at all. With the way we built job time efficiency and the way we look at it at my businesses and a lot of other businesses is, how do I get paid while I'm driving to the job? How do I get paid while I'm getting gas? How do I get paid while I'm at the shop waiting for a part or leaving the job to get a part? How do I get paid during all that downtime? And so we do that through job time efficiency, whereas we know what our per minute costs are to operate our business, and then we sell that per minute job cost to our customers. Now, you have customers that buy nothing at all, and you have customers that buy things from us. And so the customers that buy from us must pay for the customers that don't buy from us. And so no more zero tickets on tune-ups per se. You get the zero ticket, but someone else is picking up for that lost sale. And I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I'm going to show you what I mean by this. What I'm about to show you is a job time. And I'm going to pick the entire year of 2023. The longer, the better, so we get a more accurate interpretation of what's going on. And I want to show you real quickly here what happens when I'm going to pick one of my AC techs here. I'll pick Blake. Now, let me set the stage before we look at this. So Blake's worked here for pretty much the entire year of 2023, I believe, all year. And he is an HVAC tech. He sells as well. He's not a comfort advisor. He doesn't flip calls. He actually sells the calls that he's on. He either does service or he does a repair. We send him out on tune-ups as well, if they're the right kind of tune-ups for Blake's caliber of, the type of tech he is. He's a great tech at making things happen. So over the course of a full year, we are trying to get him to charge for every minute that he's employed with us. And that's 2,080 hours a year. That's 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. And so if I can get him to charge at least that many hours for the amount of time that he works, plus overtime, which makes it slightly more than that, then it's a win-win. So what I want to show you here is we're showing all the calls. So right now he has 2 open calls. There's a 1 call, and here's a lost call. That means 0 money was made on this call, 0 money on these because we're still running them. We haven't closed them out. So we're including all 0 tickets, okay? And when you come down here, we see that Blake has brought in $1.6 million, $1,638,000 so far this year. He has sold 2,988 hours worth of work in 51 minutes. But here is the amount of time that he was paid for. There is only a difference of 1 week worth of time, 41 hours that he didn't sell for the entire year that he worked for us. He is 99% efficient, even with 0 tickets. And so by being 99% efficient, even with 0 tickets, we've eliminated 0 tickets because we picked up the slack through our price book, which understands that when we're not making money on another call, we build it to where it is designed to catch up and make the money on other calls where people are buying. And so throughout the entire year, this is what's happened. So he's done, if you look here, he has done 684 jobs for us this year. And out of those, 1.6 million again. But the key here is he is 99% efficient over the entire year of this time that he's worked for us. And so he is generating a substantial amount of profit. So if, let's say my gross margin was 60%, if it's 60% and I'm at 99%, I guarantee you my gross margin and gross profit is 60% because I hit all my metrics. I did everything I needed to do. And so I know I'm getting my numbers with this guy. And I know all the history of every job he's ever done this year. And so we learn from this information through, machine learning, AI type stuff. And then we get better next year and we try to do even more. And so this includes all 0 tickets. If we the way we spot check whether or not our price book is doing its job and getting the pricing the way we want it, I'm going to click on one calls. What that means here is I'm eliminating all the zero ticket calls that don't require, like we have 99 agreements we sold, but we didn't sell any work. Places like this right here. And so they're still considered a zero ticket, but there is money attached to them. So for that, I took out all the calls where he actually got a zero ticket and no money was collected. Customer said, nope, I'm not going to do that today. Sorry, see you later. And then taking those out, now you see that for the year, the price book has adjusted his efficiency to 116% to a lot to account for the zero tickets that we had on the other report. And so that is how we made up the difference, is by doing the calculations as we go and figuring out what it takes in the pricing to get that 100% efficiency. And this is done individually by each technician. So I can pick another technician. Let's take the one off.
Quickly, Billy, can I just ask, what is your average conversion rate across the board as far as jobs run to revenue calls?
Jobs run the revenue calls?
Yeah, so what's most companies aim for a 70 to 75% conversion rate. Obviously,
that's an interesting question, and I really like it. But I do know the answer, but that's not what we look for anymore. It's kind of that KPI that doesn't give you the answer that percentage. And that was kind of what I wrote about this past Saturday, is you have a KPI and it's been established what the percentage should be or what the ratio should be, but yet it doesn't tell you the what, the how, and what, about that KPI. And so we end up not hitting the numbers because we may hit the number on the KPI, but our numbers in the cash department aren't happening, or our margin department, it isn't happening. And so what we do is we just don't take a KPI on the surface. We take a KPI and we dissect it, and we start asking questions. Is this 70% close rate? Is that good? Everybody says it's good, but is it really good? Did I get 99% efficiency throughout the year using the 70% close rate? Probably not. Don't have a way to judge it, right? Unless I have something like this. And so instead of focusing on the percentage of how many of the calls we charge are we close, why don't we just make up the ones we don't close, and we make it up through the ones that we do. So now I'll just a long-winded theory about why I like to dig deeper into the KPIs that we use. And that's how I build this stuff, because I want to know more. That 70% close rate doesn't mean anything to me if I don't have any more facts than that. I need more facts. Now, it's very simple to see that he did 684 calls without me going and looking at another report. He did 684 calls this year. And if I just want to see the difference, how many he lost out of there? 272. So I'd say he's about 60-ish%. Oh, it's 43. All right. That help? Any other questions, Alan, before I go on?
Yeah, I was in a very interesting conversation last weekend with an executive from one of the companies that you compete against, one of the bigger ones, right? So I'm not going to mention any names. And as you know, this particular company that the majority of contractors that in this space are using has a lot of data, and supposedly the data that they gather shows that companies that do charge a dispatch fee have way better, are way more profitable than those that don't. So I like to listen to stuff like that, but that was and we'll offline I'll tell you who that person was. But I'm just curious, data. You're out of all the contractors that I work with, especially in at the top end of town. I always like to listen to all the different views, but you're an advocate of data. So I'd love to know how you would combat that one.
All right. So first and foremost, get them to get on here and show it to you like I do. It's the first thing I would say.
That's not going to happen.
Exactly.
But I do appreciate you sharing
that's my whole point.
sharing the data here, Billy, because I know there's no bullshit with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't put any, if I can talk about it, I'm going to prove it.
Yeah.
And I have 5 years of data that says that's wrong. And I have 5 years of data that also tells me that my customer base is a much stronger customer base because I'm not charging it. Because the data that they're not thinking about is how many people decide not to pick you because you are charging a dispatch fee.
Well, you can't really collect that data, right? Because
you can't. That's right.
Yeah.
And so I know that we started with 0 customers. They started with multiple customers, right? I started with 0 customers with Billygo and built 30,000 customers in 5 years, and many millions of revenue over those 5 years, with no acquisitions, by the way. Did it the hard way, one customer at a time.
Congratulations, Billy.
So I'll put my data up against anybody's data.
I know. It's your net profit that impresses me the most.
Yeah, I think our bottom line profit's around 24%.
Mm.
And when you figure in add backs, it's around 30 now, just a tad over 30%.
Yeah.
Now, is it all because we don't charge dispatch fees? No, it's just a lot of things. But
so Billy, sorry to interrupt you again.
Sure, no worries.
I have clients in Australia and the US, and unfortunately, all my Australian clients are screaming, "When's Sera coming to Australia?" And that's not the topic of this conversation. It's like, how do the companies that don't have access to your software implement some of the stuff we talk about? And I know margin pricing is managed within Sera, and I love the whole concept. But it's those companies that might have to wait for a year or two before Sera, whether Sera even comes down under or not. What can they do without your software to actually? Everyone wants to be more profitable, right?
Yes, sir. Well, to have this price book hooked up with job time efficiency, so they can we can change the pricing and stuff based off of the information we get. I mean, it took us 6 months with some of the smartest guys in software engineering to build this, to put it in the software. Over 6 months to build all the code that it required to make this instantaneous and at our fingertips immediately. And so I don't know if it's possible to build a spreadsheet to do this. It's just impossible. There's just too many things to go into it. And so the best thing you can do is try not charging a dispatch fee and see how it goes. I tell you what, it just the dispatch fee is not the only reason why. I mean, there's many things. Like, we do really good training so that we can overcome objections, right? That helps. It helps a ton. We screen jobs mainly by the age of the equipment more than we do about what the call is. I mean, it's to me, if a customer calls with a drippy faucet and they're a repeat customer, and my data tells me that they have 12-year-old air conditioners, well, guess what? There's an AC tech going when the plumber goes, because we have that data. Now, that's what I'm interested in. I want to know what's really going on in that house, and I need that information every time the phone rings or they book online. And so we prioritize our jobs by what's available to us, what's the opportunity, instead of using a dispatch feed for that to decide what the opportunity is. To me, I'd rather know what's in the house and then make a decision.
So, Billy, the companies I work with down under, they do have a software. They have dispatching software that can collect the data. So, and I'm just, in my mind, I just want to lead these guys in the right direction. So my recommendations, correct me if I'm wrong, would be to A/B test calls that come in, maybe the ones that, you have your 49 or your 79 dispatch fee, the ones that, oh, let me get back to you, and they never do, right? maybe say, look, we've got a technician in the area on, it's Monday and we've got a technician in the area. How about we put you on the board? And I know, but I need it done urgently. So I think if we were to try split testing it and just,
Well, I mean, that's
compare the
exactly what we
results
did.
from zero dispatch fee versus the dispatch fee, right?
Right. So, we have hundreds of customers, and usually when they come on board, they're charging dispatch fees, and then they stop and they come on board, and then they see this massive increase in call volume. So that's our A/B testing, and so it's very significant. So if you just want to A/B test for yourselves, to everyone that's out there listening, the best thing to do is buy half of your ads on Google that are very similar to your ads with a and spell out that you charge no dispatch fee on half of your calls and see where the calls are coming from once you do that. It's a very easy way to do it real fast.
So the other thing, Billy, is I teach everyone that I work with to stand out from the competition in the drain space by using a discounted drain clear. So for your company, rather than running a $79 drain clear special, you would run a zero drain clear special. What would you include in that?
No, we can be there in an hour. Why would we set the price before we get there of any kind? 0, 79, whatever it is. I mean, to me, it's like, what does the customer want? They want service right now. So let's market 1 hour appointments for drain cleaning.
Okay.
And don't talk about money. That's where we mess up a lot in this industry is we set the price in the customer's head before we even get there. And that's where I feel like why we have so many, zero ticket calls throughout the year. And, the revenue isn't growing. The sales aren't growing. The margins aren't growing. It's just like a maintenance agreement. I've had many, many discussions about maintenance agreements. Well, the whole idea behind a maintenance agreement is I'm going to charge you X number of dollars to make your air conditioner, tune it up, make it run better. Well, when you go to that customer's house and you want more money for additional things you found wrong, you already told them that for X number of dollars, you were going to make it run longer and run better. And that's why you get the resistance. And so we have to stop giving out these low prices to get out there, and let's give this customer something they want. And what they want is service. They want service now. They don't want to wait all day. They don't mind waiting until 4 o'clock if it's 10 o'clock in the morning. If you tell them you're going to be there between 4 and 5, and you can get there between 4 and 5, they'll wait for that, but they won't wait for, you need to pay a dispatch fee and have the drain fee and have all these things. We just don't do it that way. We would rather give them what they want to hear, which is we can come as soon as possible to take care of your problem.
Okay. So the lead magnet, the Google, however you would market it, would just be we clear drains, zero dispatch fees.
Yep.
Shut up sort of thing.
Yep. That's what I do. I don't give a price, a low cost price to do something. And I don't say free. I market convenience for the customer. And that's where, where our software stands out. When I started Billygo, which is my plumbing HVAC company, we seriously had 0 customers. I could have gone out and bought any company I wanted in Dallas-Fort Worth, but I wanted to start out with 0 customers on purpose. I wanted to show that this stuff works. And so the first thing we built before we even had a dispatch, sequence in our software was a way for customers to book online. And when we opened up our online booking, we started getting calls on social media immediately. Took 47 minutes to get our first call. Our first call was $2,800, I believe, after we turned everything on. And that's really all we had. And we dispatched, the best we could with what little software we had 5 years ago. And so it's grown into a whole bunch of stuff that it can do now.
Love it. Yeah, that's something I've been telling my coaching group for a while is we used to do 0 dispatch fees. It wasn't primarily we were able to keep the job board full with a low service fee. Let's call it $50. And then anyone that didn't want to pay $50, we would put them on the board the way that I just described. But see, what I'm looking for is, I hate when someone says, well, the data says that zero dispatch fees are ineffective, and that, well, okay, your data proves otherwise, and I trust that. But I look at the vast amount of money that most contractors are spending to get the calls in the first place, and $100 to me is a bit on the light side, especially in drains. It's probably in Australia, it's probably closer to $300 to get that call. But the upside is if you get the call and you run it correctly, the upside is a customer that with a lifetime value of $10,000. So that's where, that's where the thinking needs to be. What are we going to do to get a $10,000 client on the books? So I think it's a great idea. And I really do appreciate you explaining the view with the data. Yeah, because the data is what we make decisions on, right?
That's correct. And, we can't always be perfect. As you can see, we have lost calls here.
Yep.
These usually are in the beginning of the year, in the off season, January, right? Because we did the entire year. And so we're out doing calls that generate no money. But by the time we get through the end of the year, we've collected for these lost calls. As you can see here, this guy, Jordan, over the course of the year has made it up, and he's only overbilled 69 hours and 16 minutes over the entire year, 1.8 million in revenue. Sold time is 3,712 hours. But the total time for everyone to do the job. So let's clear that up real quick. When we're talking about 3,782 hours that it took us to do the work, this is not necessarily just Jordan doing the work. This is any installers that went out and did the work. Maybe a helper was riding with him. Maybe he was training a technician. We are job costing all of those expenses at all times. And so there is never a free ride. We're always the customers are always paying us for all of our time. And that's what makes the difference between a extremely profitable business versus a profitable business versus a no money making business. And we're an extremely profitable business. Sales right now are a little over 13 million in this first 5 years, but we'll make almost $4 million. And, in most cases in the industry, that's a $25, $30 million company before they can get to $4 million. And we're doing it at half that. And it's because we're charging for every minute of everyone's time. And so we will make it up. Yes, he ran these calls early on in the year, these zero ticket tune-ups that we do when, we don't have much to do, but we're gathering information. We're gathering customers. We know what they have. And then over the course of the year, to 782 jobs later, he has gotten himself to 98% efficient. And so we focus on the efficiency side of it with the guys. And as a byproduct of that, we have a $1.8 million truck or a $1.8 million technician. And so these guys are making, $200,000 and $300,000 a year, and someone else is doing all the work. And so we're allowing for all the installers' time, all the time that it took to drive there, all the time it took to have parts delivered to the job, all the time that it took for a helper to be there as well. Whoever goes out on these jobs, that's why you see here, these are appointments. Okay, so this means this job took 3 appointments to actually get it finished. These are one of ones, and then here's some 4 of 4s. 4 different times someone went to this job. And look at the efficiency rate. We were able to make up for those 0 tickets, even though 4 different trips were done on this job. I haven't even looked at these jobs. Let's just take a look at this one. It's 8903. What is that? Let's do the 108%. It's a bigger number, but this is 200%. Let's just look at this one right here. And so all you have to do to look at it, that's Daniel. Jobs. Okay. Right there. Anything that's blue, just click on it if you want to know what's going on. So there's 4 appointments that happen on this HVAC install. Let's just start at the first one. So Jordan was brought out. He was sent out to this job. He traveled an hour and 7 minutes from wherever he was. He worked 123. He had 2 hours and 30 minutes into this job, which is not unusual. First visit out. He sold it. Miguel and Rufino, that's Miguel's helper. They traveled 49 minutes together for 138. They both worked 758 for 17 hours and 34 minutes. Not only did Miguel go out there and his partner, Gio, and his guy, Luis, they went out there as well. This must have been a multiple system job. And again, they traveled 29 minutes. They worked 758 each. And then Jordan goes back, travels out there, does all of his inspection, even has time to go back and make sure everything's good. And with all that going on, we have a breakdown of everything that happened. Here's the summary right here. 108% efficient. There was over 4 hours and 12 minutes of travel. And that's everyone. If there's 2 people in the truck, we count both of them. If there's 2 people on the job, we count both of them. However many people are on the job, this is all the total travel and work time. But Jordan was pretty accurate with his selling. He sold 41 hours and 47 minutes worth of work. So we were under budget by 3 hours. And so not only did we make our margin on this job, we made 3 hours and 7 minutes more money than we normally would. Does that make sense, everybody?
Absolutely. I think we've had this conversation before about margin pricing, but the way that you price your jobs, and look, I'm always thinking about our clients that don't have access to your software and how they should be pricing their jobs. I know that we started playing around with margin pricing around 2007, 2008. And every job that I personally was involved with, and I'm talking about bigger jobs, small service work, not so much, because we use flat rate pricing as most of the industry use that are running service. But whenever I margin priced a job, the accuracy was pretty damn good, because I knew that there was X amount of time on site and then X amount of time travel. And when you margin price, I don't know, it just seems to be, as long as you've got knowledge of the job, and I'm guessing that Sera has that knowledge when you price every job. But like I said, Billy, it's the margin pricing, and I'm teaching more and more of this margin pricing, especially anyone that's using loss leaders or wants to margin price their equipment, with drain cleaning. So the contractors that don't have Sera, they're the ones that I want to actually provide some value in margin pricing. And that's why I wanted to, and I believe the zero dispatch fee, for anyone that's tuned in, you should be testing this, but you really do need to know what it actually costs you to get a technician in a fully stocked truck to a client. You need to know those costs, right? Before, and then when you know that it's not $100 or it's $300, that every customer that you can't get with your dispatch fee should be a zero dispatch fee, and test it. Yeah.
Yes. So the key is to know how much it costs you to run your business by the minute. And that's what we do. We break it down all the way down to the minute. And we know that it's $1.01 per minute for every person on the payroll. Right. And so we need to go collect those $1, as many of those $1.01. Those are costs. And then we add our margins to those. So that's how we figure out by the minute to do all the things that we're trying to do. And everything that I just showed you guys is not a manual step at all. This is completely automated. There is nothing manual about this entire process I showed you. The machine's doing the work.
I love it. So The other thing that I've seen, Billy, is the fact that most contractors aren't charging the correct margin, because they don't actually have, and I know you're an advocate of knowing your numbers, and I've been following your posts, not just within our groups, but all the groups for some time now, the importance of that. I had a coaching call yesterday with a contractor who straight up said, I don't understand my financials. And first thing I said, well, I need to get you some coaching on that. I'm not your finance coach, but I know someone that is. You got to know your numbers. Otherwise, how can you make decisions? But most contractors, when it comes to margin pricing, ain't charging the right margin. And I used to look at, if we had a company that had an overhead, and you would probably have more information on what the industry average is, but my guess is the average service company runs an overhead anywhere from 30 to 50%, and maybe 40% might be where the industry is, maybe just under. So if you've got a 40% overhead and you want to make a 20% net, you need a 60% gross margin, right?
You do, but you need the 100% efficiency to achieve it.
Yeah.
It's where things go sideways with flat rate pricing. You set your pricing, but when it's all on your financial statements, it's usually about 10 points lower, because the inefficiency in your business kills all the profit, all the margin, kills all the margin.
The other thing too, I picked up I think it was a post a couple of weeks ago about the efficiency of your business when it comes to the number of office staff you have, which keeps your overhead really low. But I'd like your view on, what is the industry average, in regards to not just efficiency, but where do most service companies run as far as their overhead is, in your view, would be too high, right?
Yeah. So that's a moving target for sure. I see a lot of financials. I see it anywhere from 30 to 48% overhead
Yep.
cost. What I believe in is, okay, if it's 30 to 48, then what's 29 look like? That's how I look at things. And before you can even get to that number, you need to know your break even, because at what point is your break even is going to tell you what your overhead expense is, right? You can't, it's 100% until you get to your break even.
Yeah.
Right. And so, or it starts at 100% and it goes down until you get to your break even. And then once you hit your break even, then you're set, like, okay, I got to do 200,000 a month to be at 40% overhead cost. Okay. And so that's a very important to know what the break even is, so that you can arrive at what your real overhead cost is. And again, I think that you can run a business in the 20% overhead. We do. We're at 28 actually. When we hit our break even, I have less people in the office for the size business we are, but I pay those people twice as much because we have less people. So I get really good people, first class all the way through. And so, CSRs are making 60 grand instead of $20 an hour or 18 or whatever they're paying out there. Because I want something that's good. I want something that's really, and so we do that because, we know that we only need a certain amount, because we push as many of our customers to online booking as we can, because that requires 0 CSRs, requires 0 dispatching, requires 0 anything until the tech shows up at the house. Easy way to make money there. So to me, it's knowing your break even to find out where your overhead cost should be. So with that being said, we can sell equipment on a 50% gross margin and make 22% to the bottom line. So I'm 30% cheaper than my competition, and I'm growing like crazy, and I'm making more money than they are. So wouldn't that be a nice place to be? if you could charge less and make more.
That
There's
always fascinates me, Billy. It really does. The fact
It's-
that you can be 30% below your competition and still be making closer to 30% net.
yeah,
It's amazing. It's a
we
credit
dialed
to
in the
you
efficiency in the
and your
field,
software.
right? So we dialed in the efficiency in the field, right? We got it at close to 100%. We dial in the efficiency in the office, and we do things that attract great customers. Look, guys, look at it like this. If you start getting more customers because you're not charging a dispatch fee and you make it apparent that you're not charging a dispatch fee, you need to say it on your ads. No dispatch. Okay. Just don't have it your same ad and stop charging it. Just tell them you don't charge it. Okay. When you start seeing that these customers are coming in and they're not bad customers, here's what's going to happen. They're going to come in. All customers are going to come in at the lower level until you prove to Google that you're a legitimate company. And the fastest way to prove to them that you're a legitimate company is having people pick you more often. And the more often that they pick you, the more information that Google gets on the fact that your company is legitimate, that you're actually making their customers. Google's customer is looking for something. Google needs to make them happy. And so Google's looking for the HVAC plumbing companies that are making customers happy. And when they find out that your company makes them happy, they're going to send you their best customers because you make them happy. And so you're not going to get shoppers, you're going to get buyers. And a buyer is someone that's gotten online and said, what's the best air conditioner to buy? Or what's the best water heater to buy? Or looked on, gone to Home Depot. They know when they walk in the door at Home Depot. They know all this information about what we do all the time. And so they rank their customers just like you rank yours. And if someone is actively pursuing something and learning more about a Nest thermostat or whatever they're learning about, those are people that are ready to buy something because they're looking for something to buy. They are actually inquiring and learning. And that's the folks that will start coming to your business. I'm 3 miles away from my old company. My old company is one of the largest companies in Dallas-Fort Worth for many, many years, still is. But we're 3 miles away and we're growing at 20, 30, 40% a year every year. And they're flat. Why is it? Why is it? What's the difference? They had a 15-year head start, 20-year head start, excuse me. Why is it different 3 miles away where we are full every day with work, even in the shoulder season? Doesn't matter. We're full every day.
Can I give my view on that one?
Yes, sir.
They don't have Billy Stevens at the helm and they're not using Sera software. There's two things.
Well, my point is I'm just looking at it at a different way than they are. That's it. That's the only thing I'm doing different. And I don't mind sharing it. I'm on here sharing it. If I didn't want to tell anybody what I was doing, I would just keep quiet. Nobody know who I am. I'm trying to push this out there and for everyone to understand that we're wasting way too much money. And another thing that I really complain about, or that I don't believe in, is overbooking your staff during your busy time. Because I just think when you massively overbook, it costs us all money. Because if a customer calls you at 10 o'clock in the morning, your dispatcher's already said you're busy, you're full, you got a great customer, maybe even a medium customer on the line. You put them at the end of the day and say, hey, I don't know when I'm going to get to you, but we'll get to you at some point. That customer is jumping off the phone with you. They just clicked on your ad. You just paid $150, whatever it was, and they're clicking on someone else's ad to see what they say.
Yeah.
Well, Google's getting paid 3-4 times, and only one of you is going to get it. And so we don't overbook as well. We take the priority calls that we want to do, and we spread the rest of them out. And so it's just the little things we do differently. And so if I have a customer that calls me that has a broken system that's 15 years old, I'm going to be there in 30 minutes or less because I'm not overbooked. I'm booked, but I'm not overbooked. There's a key. There's a fine dance there, but that's a whole another hour.
Talking about happy customers, Billy, I was hoping we could open it up. There's a few of our few of my coaching clients that would love to throw a few questions at you if you don't
Sure.
mind. And I
Let's do it.
noticed one from Joe Strip Matter. Maybe Sid, are you able to unmute Joe so he can, or Joe, you may be able to unmute yourself and hop in if you're still on the call. If not, we'll open it up to anyone that's got any questions for you, if you don't mind, Billy.
Yeah, let's do it.
No? Okay, well, I look like an idiot, don't I? So the mic is open for. I know there's going to be some questions here for Billy. If not, we'll keep going. Has anyone got anything pressing they'd like to throw Billy's way? I think you've all got the ability to unmute yourself. Well, how's that? Look, feel free to. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, how you doing, Alan?
Good,
Yeah,
buddy.
I have a question. When you were showing the screen and you were saying that a guy had sold like 4,000 hours in a year, you're not saying that he worked 80 hours a week to do that. It's how does that work when you're saying he sold 4,000 hours in a year?
Let me go back to that. I don't recall exactly what I said on that. Sorry. I was just reading off what was there.
That's a nice view of your bike track, Billy.
Oh, well, thanks.
So
All right.
so like
okay.
if he's
Listen.
Yeah.
I get what you're asking now. So remember, he's selling time for the installers and helpers as well.
okay.
Yeah. So he's selling time for everyone that'll go to this job that we have to pay to be on this job.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yes, sir.
The sounds of silence. Any
It
other
is.
questions, Daniel?
Man, did I answer everybody's thoughts in their minds?
But it's pretty. It's a new way of thinking that you are presenting, and it's processing it, and you have to be able to understand what you're asking to be able to ask a question. So I mean, that's part of what I think the silence is that it's just such a new way of thinking.
Yes, it is. To everyone on the call, I've been doing this since 2003 is when I started trying to figure all this stuff out. I actually got into business in 96 and it took me 7 years to go, okay, I'm tired of being broke. I got to start figuring some stuff out. And so in 03 is when I started putting this stuff together and just like questioning everything, and did it all before we had any real software to work with. So we were mostly 50% probably, or 60, 70% paper and pen and paper, trying to do all this craziness. But it worked back then, and now it works. It's just automated. I don't require a lot of spreadsheets like back in the day to do it. So yeah, it sounds new to everyone, but it's proven for over 20 years for myself and many other folks that I've trained to do this. And all it is we're just catching up to what we should be doing anyway. I think flat rate was introduced. Don't quote me on this. I want to say 97 is when I first heard about flat rate. And it took 20 years for it to become the majority of the way we charge. And as an industry, we move really slow. And it's just a contractor way. I mean, we want to be, we want to do things the same old way, and it's hard to venture out. And so it takes us time. And I remember when I started flat rating that, I was literally called a crook, was ripping off customers. The customers never said this. This was my peers. I was in a small group back then. The groups were new. We didn't have many groups out there. There's one or two success groups and stuff. And, I was one of those bad guys because I picked up flat rate real early. And the funny thing happened. I lost about 20% of my customers, but the 80% that stayed made this incredible business for us. And then they just took off from there. And it's because I adopted something new. I didn't wait. And we have a herd mentality in the industry, and a lot of the industry is waiting for someone else to go first. Right. And once people start picking it up more and more and more, then it becomes the norm. And then everybody's an expert again, right, on that subject matter. And so my way of running a business is I don't think it's new or just out of thin air. It's proven ways of doing things. I believe there's a psychology in the way that a customer thinks. So I want to figure out what it is. That's really all I'm doing. What is the customer thinking? And I want to figure out how to make them decide to pick us, to pick you is really what I'm wanting them to do. And I'm just trying to make it as easy as I can for them to do that.
Thanks, Billy.
Hello.
Sorry, Daniel, did you have something else you wanted to throw Billy's way?
This is Steve, Silverwater Plumbing.
Hello, Steve.
How are you?
Good, buddy.
That's good. I've got a question for Billy. So I got it clear. Sera adjusts the price to offset the non-billing hours. That's correct?
Yep. So we use the data that we have, and then the pricing can be extended or by time. Of course, we have other factors like price increases and stuff, and that can all be handled relatively quickly, like in 90 seconds or so, any new price increases.
Right.
That you may see from your contractor. So we have that. We have the time factor. We're always analyzing what is our per minute hour cost. Like if we were to add any employees, that affects it, right? So we change that as well. And so all of this stuff is once it's put in, you start getting the data that you need to make decisions on how to improve it. And then with the AI stuff that we continue to build out, it will be able to do it on the fly by the job. You need an extra 100 minutes to finish the day out to hit 100% accuracy. At some point pretty soon, it'll find that extra 100 minutes for you.
Right. So subject to the ratio of billing versus non-billing hours, the price adjusts accordingly. Have you got any negative feedback from repeat customers? Because one moment you might call today to change or fix a leaking tap, and then you come back 2 months later to fix another leaking tap and you charge a different price. Does that ever arise? And how do you overcome that?
I'd be mad at my guys for not getting that second one the first time. So
That's a good response.
That to me is a callback. But to answer your question, well, they catch it, I guess we'll fix it for them. We'll change it. We'll charge the same thing again. So,
but the margin would be the price increase, in my view, would be minimal unless you suddenly realize that you're only allowing 15 minutes for a job that takes 30. Then the price increase would be substantial, but the price increase on the part probably wouldn't be a big issue.
Here's another way to look at it. So we take the data across all the technicians that do that spigot repair. Okay. That's where we get our information from. All right. So we have 5 guys that do it. Of those 5 guys, 3 of them do it in 30 minutes. 2 of them do it in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Because they all work at a different pace. Right. And so we get the data from that, the actual, what does it actually take to do the job with everybody involved? And so if we're finding that we're under our 100% efficiency ratio, we'll move it up. If we feel like we're not selling them because we're overpriced because there's too much time involved, then we start manipulating the price back down. It's all about grabbing the price and finding out where that sweet spot is so we can close more calls. It's really what we're trying to get to.
Yep. Thank you.
I want to jump in, for those that aren't using Sera, and I know Billy, I'd like to open it up for you to promote Sera, any specials you've got at the moment, and how your product is priced against the competition. We're not mentioning any names, right? But when it comes to margin pricing, we had great success with it. But in our group, I've got a really simple worksheet that all you need to do is, if you know how many hours you're going to take on the job for a tradesman and apprentice and what your parts cost are, and then decide what your gross margin needs to be. That's the tricky one. Unless you know exactly where your overhead is, what your break-even point, and then what you need to charge. But anyone that's within our coaching group that needs access to that, I call it the no BS margin pricing calculator. So that's available for our members. But we had great accuracy. We always aim for, if we're paying technicians for 40 hours, we wanted to be able to build 40 hours, and we never ever got that with flat rate pricing. It was always, the industry was said you should be 50% efficient. I think we were closer to 40%, maybe not even. So I'm not saying flat rate pricing is a bad thing. It's served the industry well. And I do recall, I think, a fellow by the name of Frank Blau, one of the founders of Nexstar. I think from memory, he was using flat rate pricing in the early 90s. It could have even been in the late 80s. I could be wrong on that, but that's when I caught up with Frank last time, I'm sure that's what he said. But so anyone that wants to play around with margin pricing that's not able to get access to Sera, just hit me up, and I tell you, it's fucking accurate. And it does put your margin where you want it to be, but you do need to know your costs. So back to you, Billy.
Yeah, so just a real simple way to tell the difference between the two. Obviously, we're only charging one price, just like flat rate. All right, so if something's $200, it's $200. That's your end price, whatever. That's the same, depending on if you change your margins once you learn the margin part. But flat rate pricing, as you know, all companies charge somewhere between $300 and $500 an hour. And what you have here is a smorgasbord of food in one bowl. Maybe it's a vegetable soup, and every vegetable there is in this soup. The problem with flat rate pricing is you don't know what the cost of each of those vegetables are, because they're all just put in one bowl. And all we're doing in margin pricing is we're separating them so that we can get more accurate with them. And when you ask someone like you guys, I'm sure everybody on here is on flat rate pricing. And if I ask you what your flat rate price is, you're going to say it's X. It's $300 an hour, whatever it is. But what you don't know is what's your labor, how much is your labor cost of that 300? How much is your material cost of that 300? What's your permitting fees in that 300? What's your overhead cost of that 300? You just don't know those. And all I'm doing in margin pricing is showing those to you. Is it pulling them out so you see them?
That's just a question from Brent from It Just Happens. So the pricing for each job is created dynamically based on what Sera's AI thinks your per minute rate should be. I'm guessing that's a yes, right?
So the way we do it when we set you up on Sera is you have someone that sets you up. We just don't give you our software and say good luck, and you take a year to learn and you pay $100,000 to somebody. We don't do that. We actually set it all up for you based off of your past history. We'll look at your financials, and based off of what your financials are telling you, we'll give you our suggestion of where we should start. And then once we start, we already have the price book. Billygo's done all the testing, so Billygo is pretty doggone accurate on the ingredients of what we need for the pricing to be right. I mean, there's going to be some changes. Obviously, you may pay $1 more for something else than we do, or you may pay $5 less than we do. It just depends. And so those little things are all, taken care of. That's just the only differences. So your price book is completely built out at a margin, and the margin that you selected at the cost per minute that we've feel like we've learned from your financial statements and where you want to go and where you want to be with your company. And then we look at your pricing and how it is different from where you were. And I'll be honest with you, once you dial in margin pricing correctly and you dial in the efficiency piece of it, you actually can lower your pricing that you were used to charging and actually end up making more money like we do, because now we have all the ingredients where they need to be. We're dialed in on the efficiency process. And so if the industry as a whole is considered 38% efficient, that is the industry. So 62% of the time we're inefficient. So if I could just get you to 50% efficiency, that's 12 points better. So if you were 50% more efficient, you could actually charge 12 points less and be at the same number. Is that right?
That's a beautiful thing.
Right. And so if you build your profitability of your business through the efficiency side, and then you build your pricing on your ability to close your product, your sales on every call. And so if your competitors are at $15,000 for a new system and your efficient is double theirs, you can actually sell that system for $12,000 and make more money than they are. Their inefficiency is eating up their profits. And that's what's happened with the big PE firms, is their systems keep getting higher and higher and higher and higher because of all the inefficiencies that happen when they keep adding on more and more companies. And now these guys have gotten their prices up, their prices up to where they have to charge 18, 20, 25,000 or whatever they're charging these days for systems. And that happens because there's never been any accountability for the efficiency side of the business. It just raised prices to cover the cost. Let's keep raising revenue because that's their model. The more revenue we have, the more we can sell it in 2 years for. And so it's just this constant battle. What happened was when the stimulus money ran out in COVID, that model fell apart, and it fell apart overnight. And you see a lot of private equity firms, the majority of private equity firms are now missing their covenants and not making payroll. Investors are bringing money out of their own pockets to make the payroll. And it's happening all around us right now. And that's because the model was great and there was plenty of money out there for people. But as soon as that stopped, it really stopped, and it stopped fast. And so building an efficient business doesn't matter what the economy is doing. Doesn't matter what the interest rates are. It doesn't care at all. It just adapts to it and keeps on trucking. And that's how come our businesses that are on our platform, the majority of them, at worst, are flat, but at best up this year when the industry as a whole is down.
We could go into a whole another conversation on where the market is going and where the industry is going. I think we know what's coming in 2024. So
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I mean, that's my
absolutely. No, you're right. Now, Billy, just want to say, when you move away from your microphone, it's really hard to hear you. I probably should have said something sooner, but I'd like to give you an opportunity to maybe discuss a little bit about your products. Anyone that's in the US that's not using Sera, I highly recommend it for some of the obvious reasons that we've discussed. So don't know whether you've got any specials at the moment, or how does your product compare to the competition. I know what you're going to say, but I want to thank you for your input. I always learn so much every time I talk to you. And I've always said, when Billy Stevens talks, you should listen, especially when it comes to making money. So now all of our Australian members, I will work with you one-on-one if I need to, and give you some tips, some ideas on how to become more profitable based on some of the things we've discussed today. So thanks again, Billy. And maybe a couple of minutes just going through Sera, how much cheaper it is to use than the competing products, and how much better it is. I don't know. Over to you, my man.
Thank you. Maybe I should come to Australia since it's summer there.
It's beautiful at the moment, except it's raining.
The earth, aren't you? Yeah, sounds good right now.
Yeah.
Cool. I just put put it down to the code. I mean, what people don't realize is how the code makes all the difference in software. And that's something you don't see. And so we have a more modern code our code is written in a more modern way where we connect dots. And so by connecting dots, we created this data machine, which Sera's massively good at data. And where the old way of building software is basically, you know, you pile up blocks and you just keep piling up blocks. And then at some point, there's so many blocks that it gets hard to do. And instead of getting easier as there's more blocks added to it, it gets harder to work. It just gets harder and harder the whole way. Whereas connecting dots, it gets easier the more you build because it starts thinking more. That's really the whole idea behind it. And then all the things it can do because of that type of architecture. But the thing that stands out the most goes back to the structure or the architecture of code as well is we have 3 different entities that are talking to each other. We have a customer interface, right? It has a portal, it has online booking. All this stuff is the customer, where the customer's at. And all this stuff lives on your website. And because all this stuff lives on your website, the average time spent on a website with a Sera customer is over 2 minutes. The average time spent on any contractor's website is less than 30 seconds. So that 2 minutes means a lot when customers come back repeatedly, and that lives on your actual website, and it helps improve it. And the next thing that is good is I feel like our tech app is 10, 15 years ahead of what's out there. It's very intuitive. It really helps drive this efficiency. It helps drive these technicians to do amazing things. These kids that I showed you today are in their early 20s. These are babies. That some of them weren't even in the trades a couple of years ago, and they're doing exceptional because of the way we built our tech app. And then of course all the data and stuff that's collected from all those places is in the admin app part of the software. And without those 3, you can't get all of this processing that we have, or the AI type feel that where when a customer is trying to book a water heater, it knows where the best tech is to, where he's at, how much longer he's going to be on the job, because right, we got job time efficiency. We know how long he's going to be there. We don't have to call him and ask him anymore. And so we know how long he's going to be there. So we know when to tell that customer when we're going to show up, because it knows how far away they are from that customer, it knows how much longer they're going to be on that job. All these things matter, and you just don't get that anywhere else. And so this is the stuff that people just haven't really thought about when it comes to looking at our software is let's do some thinking and let the machines do what they were just actually supposed to do all along. And so that's what we've done with it. As far as pricing, I think it's free because you're going to make more money when you use it. But it's from up to 4 techs, it's $3.99 a month.
Wow.
Anything over it's $150 a tech over that. Price books included, online booking systems included, all these things that are extra other places is included because it wouldn't work without them. So we want it to be a part of the software, and it is. We're here for you to succeed, and that's the whole ideal. I didn't have to get into this business. I've never built software in my life. I don't even know how to build software. I hire people to do. I know what I want it to do. That's the thing, is I know what I want it to do. So that's what I instruct them and help them do. But it's the only software in the industry that was built by someone that actually has run these companies. I've run companies. I've started PE. I've been in the beginning of PE space, the very first company as a platform company in the PE world, 11 years ago. I've bought and sold lots of companies. I've been there. I've done all of it. I've retired, back, done all kinds of stuff. So I sat in every chair that everyone on this call has sat in. I've sat in every chair that every employee you have is sat in. And so I understand what we all need. And that's the whole idea behind Sera. That's really all, I mean, it's really all there is to it.
Thank you, Billy. Listen, we'll probably round up now, and I just want to conclude with anyone that wants that in Australia, just come directly to me, and I can, I suppose, help navigate you through what's coming. Yeah, for anyone in the US that's not using Sera right now, I probably would want to ask you why not. Especially with the some of the things that is coming. Interestingly enough, you talk about PE. I was a private equity. I was doing some training at American Pipelining Supplies headquarters in South Carolina, and there was a company there doing training that had 5,500 staff. I think it was Apex. Big company, and what I admired is they're really investing in their staff in the training, because APS is drain specific, teaching you how to repair drains without excavation, all that sort of stuff. I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing that with your enterprise version coming out in 24, you're going to have more of these bigger companies on board with Sera.
That's the rumor.
I've heard the same. Well, I hope so, because that might be what saves them, right?
Maybe hope so.
Yeah. But thank you, Billy. I always appreciate your time, your wisdom, and taking time out of your busy day to help our group.
All right, I appreciate you having me on, and thank you everyone for spending an hour and 15 minutes with us today. If you have any questions, want to reach out, it's billy@sera.tech. It's easy as that to get a hold of me. Thank you.
Thank you again, buddy. All right.
Thank
Good to
you,
see you all. Thank you for everyone that participated today, and you all have a fantastic day. Cheers, my man. Cheers, Billy.
Bye-bye.